Apache woman offered her body to save her daughter, but the rancher only gave them food. Maria woke before the sun that morning, her small hands clutching the thin blanket that covered her and her daughter. The wind whistled across the dry plains outside their little shelter, making the wooden walls creak and groan, as if the house itself were shivering. Maria pulled Anna closer to her chest, feeling the tiny body trembling. Her daughter's breathing was shallow, and her face looked pale against the dull light of dawn. Maria's heart ached. She had watched Anna suffer for weeks now, hunger gnawing at her small frame like an invisible enemy. Each day seemed longer than the last, each night colder and lonelier. Life had never been easy for Maria, and Anna passed away. After Maria's husband had passed away unexpectedly, leaving her to care for Anna alone, she had struggled to survive. The land around them was harsh, unforgiving. Rain came rarely, crops failed often, and hunting was unpredictable. Maria had learned to live with little, but even she could not imagine a world where she could no longer provide her daughter with the basics: food, warmth, and love. Hunger was no stranger to them, but it had grown sharper, more dangerous, in recent weeks. Maria felt it in her bones, a slow, twisting pain that made her stomach ache and her head swim. That morning, as she wrapped Anna in her thin shawl, Maria thought about the last meal they had shared. It had been a few days ago, a handful of corn kernels roasted over the fire. Anna had eaten slowly, her eyes downcast, as if she were afraid to show just how hungry she really was. Maria had wanted to cry, but she forced herself to stay strong, comforting Anna with soft words and gentle strokes of her hair. "It's okay, Anna," she whispered. "We will find something today." "Don't worry, my little one." Maria's voice sounded small, even to her own ears. She had no idea where the next meal would come from. She had walked to nearby villages asking strangers for work or a few pieces of bread, but people had turned her away, their eyes cold and unwelcoming. Breaths. Sometimes she thought it was because of who they were. They were Apache, outsiders in a world that seemed to have no place for them. Other times, she thought it was because she had nothing to offer in return. Either way, the result was the same: hunger, disappointment, and the endless worry for Anna.
Despite the fear gnawing at her heart, Maria refused to give in to despair.
She packed what little belongings they had, some worn clothes, a small pot, and a blanket, and prepared to leave their shelter. Today, she told herself, she would try again. Pay. She would find someone who could help. She would do whatever it took to save her daughter. As she stepped outside, the cold wind bit at her cheeks. The plains stretched out endlessly before her, a mix of brown grass, rocks, and scattered shrubs. The sky was a pale gray, and clouds threatened rain that might never come. Maria's eyes scanned the horizon, looking for signs of life, for any indication that help might be near. She walked with Anna in her arms, her steps slow but determined. Every creaking branch, every distant sound of birds or animals seemed amplified in the quiet morning. Maria felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders, heavier than any pack she had ever carried. Along the way, she encountered other travelers, farmers, and villagers. Some looked at her with suspicion, others with pity. A few ignored her completely, walking past without a word. Each reaction cut into Maria's heart, but she pressed on. She could not let her pride or fear stop her, not when Anna's life depended on her courage. By midday, Maria reached a small creek, where the water was barely enough to fill a tiny cup. She knelt and let Anna sip slowly, making sure her daughter stayed hydrated. Maria herself drank sparingly, conserving the little they had, but she thought about the long journey ahead and the endless possibility of rejection and disappointment. Her mind wandered to stories she had heard of generous people, ranchers who shared their food and supplies with those in need. Could such a person exist nearby? Could they be the answer to her prayers? As she continued walking, Maria noticed signs of a large ranch in the distance. Fences, smoke rising from a chimney, and the distant sound of cattle. Her heart leapt. Perhaps here, at last, she could find someone who would help. But fear and uncertainty followed her like shadows. She had no idea how the rancher would react. Would he send her away? Would he demand something impossible in exchange? Maria pushed the thoughts aside, focusing only on Anna's small, hungry eyes and the soft whimpering that reminded her of the urgency of their need. By late afternoon, Maria and Anna had reached the outskirts of the ranch. The sight of the large house, the well-tended fields, and the healthy livestock filled Maria with awe. She had never seen such wealth, such abundance. A part of her feared approaching, worried that the rancher might turn them away. But another part, the part that loved Anna more than anything, urged her forward. She tightened her grip on her daughter and took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever might come. Maria knocked on the ranch door, her knuckles white against the wood. Each second felt like an eternity. When the door opened, she found herself face to face with a man who looked as imposing as the stories had described. He was tall, with weathered skin and a sharp gaze that seemed to pierce right through her. Maria felt her heart pound in her chest, but she swallowed her fear and spoke. She told him about Anna, about their hunger, and about her desperation. She offered herself, thinking this might be the only way to ensure her daughter's survival. The rancher listened quietly, his expression unreadable. Maria's words tumbled out in a rush, a mixture of hope, fear, and sorrow. She explained that she had nowhere else to turn, that the land had failed them, that the people she approached before had refused to help. She looked down, ashamed and vulnerable, yet determined to do whatever it took for Anna's sake. And then, after what felt like an eternity, the rancher spoke. Maria's heart thudded painfully in her chest as she waited for rejection, for a cruel word, for the denial she had come to expect. But instead he shook his head slowly. But his voice was calm but firm.
He would not accept her offer in that way.
Maria blinked, confused and trembling. He asked her to bring her daughter and explained that he would help them, giving them food and water. Maria felt a strange mixture of disbelief, relief, and hope. For the first time in weeks, the impossible seemed possible. As she walked back to fetch Anna, Maria's mind raced. She had approached the rancher expecting cruelty or indifference, and yet here was kindness. She wondered why the world could be so harsh in some places and so gentle in others. She realized that courage and honesty had brought her to this moment, that even in the darkest times, hope could shine if one dared to act. When she returned with Anna, the rancher welcomed them warmly, offering bread, stew, and milk. Anna's small hands reached out eagerly, and Maria watched with tears in her eyes as her daughter finally ate without fear or hesitation. That simple act of kindness filled Maria's heart with gratitude, and she understood something she had forgotten in the long months of struggle. Even in the harshest realities, human compassion could bring light where there was darkness. That night, as Maria and Anna rested in the small shelter provided by the rancher, Maria whispered to her daughter, "We are safe for now, my little one. We are safe." And for the first time in many days, Anna's soft breathing was steady, her eyes closed in peaceful sleep, and Maria felt a flicker of hope for the future, a hope that had been nearly extinguished but now burned brightly once again. Maria left the safety of her little shelter and stepped into the harsh sunlight, her heart heavy with worry yet burning with a desperate determination. She had heard stories of a wealthy rancher living beyond the hills, someone who had enough food to feed a family for weeks, perhaps months. Yet with every step she took toward the distant fences, a cold fear ran through her body. What if he refused them? What if he laughed at her desperation? Her small daughter clutched in her arms.
Hunger and hope wrestled within her, twisting her thoughts into a storm she could barely calm.
Anna clung to her mother's shoulder, too small and weak to walk for long distances, her soft hair brushing against Maria's face as she whispered questions about food and safety.
Maria tried to comfort her, stroking her back and murmuring soft promises she did not yet know how to keep. "Soon, Anna, soon," she said. "We will find help today. Don't worry, my little one." "I promise." Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to sound strong. She could not afford to show weakness. Not now, not when every passing moment could determine Anna's survival. The path to the ranch was long and unforgiving. The sun beat down relentlessly, turning the dirt road into a shimmering blur of heat. Maria's feet were sore and blistered, her arms ached from carrying Anna, and yet she refused to stop. Bank. Hunger made her stomach twist painfully, and thirst parched her throat. But she ignored it. All that mattered was reaching the ranch, convincing someone, anyone, to help her daughter. With each step, the world seemed larger, the distance greater, and Maria's courage was tested like never before. As she walked, she remembered the nights they had spent huddled together in their small shelter. She remembered Anna's quiet sobs, the way her little body shook with hunger, and the hopeless look in her eyes. Maria had cried silently, holding her daughter close, promising that better days would come, even when she did not know how they would. Those memories strengthened her resolve. She could not, would not give up. Anna's life depended on her courage, on her willingness to face a stranger, to offer everything she had in a desperate plea for survival. By late morning, Maria saw the first signs of human life. Smoke curling from chimneys, the distant sound of cattle lowing, and the faint movement of people working in the fields. Her heart both leapt and trembled. Hope surged inside her, but fear clutched at her chest like a heavy stone. She had heard stories of cruel landowners, of people who took advantage of those in need, and she could not ignore the possibility that she might face the same fate. Psh! Yet hunger is a powerful motivator, stronger than fear, and Maria pressed on, holding Anna tightly and whispering words of comfort. As they neared the ranch, Maria could see the large fences that marked its boundaries, the wide fields where cattle grazed under the watchful eye of men on horseback. The main house rose above the land, its walls strong and tall, its windows glinting in the sunlight. Maria felt a flicker of awe. She had never seen such wealth, such abundance. A part of her wanted to turn back, to avoid the risk of rejection, humiliation, or worse. But another stronger part, the part that loved Anna more than anything, urged her forward. She could not stop. She would not. When they reached the main gate, Maria took a deep breath, her fingers trembling as she knocked. The sound echoed through the courtyard, each knock a heartbeat, a prayer. Anna shifted in her arms, sensing her mother's tension, and clung tighter. Maria's throat felt dry, and her lips trembled as she tried to form the words she had rehearsed over and over. When the door opened, a man stood there, tall and imposing, with sharp eyes that seemed to measure every part of her being. Maria felt her courage falter for a moment, but quickly pushed forward, gathering every ounce of strength she had. She spoke quickly, almost breathlessly, telling him about Anna, about their hunger, and about her desperation. She explained how the land had failed them, how they had nowhere else to turn, and how she was willing to do anything, give anything, just to save her daughter. She spoke of the days spent without enough food, of the nights spent shivering in the cold. and of the fear that Anna might not survive another day. Her words tumbled out, full of fear, hope, and raw honesty. The rancher listened in silence. Maria's heart pounded in her chest as she awaited his response. She expected anger, cruelty, rejection, or indifference. She braced herself for the worst. But after a long pause, the man spoke in a calm, steady voice that carried a surprising warmth. He would not accept her offer in that way. Maria blinked, unable to believe her ears. He told her to bring Anna to him and explained that he had once known hunger himself, had once felt the pain of watching a loved one suffer, and that he would help them, giving them food and water. Relief washed over Maria in waves, almost overwhelming her. She could hardly speak, her lips trembling with gratitude and disbelief. She held Anna closer, whispering soft words of thanks, her eyes filling with tears. She had approached the rancher expecting cruelty, yet here was kindness, simple and human, waiting for them. Maria realized that her courage, her honesty, and her willingness to act despite fear had brought her to this moment. The impossible had become possible, and hope, fragile but real, began to bloom in her heart. Maria ran back to their shelter to fetch Anna. The journey back was lighter somehow, the weight of desperation eased by the promise of help. Yes, Anna, sensing the change in her mother's demeanor, was quieter, her small hand clutching Maria's sleeve. Maria whispered encouragements to her daughter, telling her that better days were coming, that they would soon eat and be safe. She felt a strength she had not known in weeks, a quiet confidence that no matter how harsh the world could be, courage and honesty could sometimes open doors where fear and despair could not. When Maria returned with Anna, the rancher greeted them warmly, leading them inside and offering them a meal. The smell of fresh bread and stew filled the air, making Anna's small eyes widen with wonder. Maria watched as her daughter reached out eagerly, her tiny hands trembling as she took the first bites. For the first time in days, Anna ate without fear or hesitation, and Maria felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had expected rejection, humiliation, and despair, yet she found kindness, generosity, and hope. As they sat together, Maria reflected on the lessons of the day. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. She understood that sometimes the world's harshness could be met with unexpected compassion. And most of all, she felt a deep, abiding gratitude for the rancher, for the food, for the moment of relief, and for the precious life of her daughter. That night, Maria and Anna rested in the small shelter provided by the rancher. Anna slept peacefully, her soft breathing steady and calm, and Maria sat quietly, watching her daughter. She thought about the long journey ahead, about the challenges they would face, but she no longer felt completely alone. She had faced fear, she had acted with courage, and she had been met with kindness. And in that moment, Maria knew that no matter what came next, she would continue to fight, to hope, and to love, for Anna's sake and for the future they would face together. Maria held Anna tightly as she approached the large wooden door of the ranch house. Her hands were still shaking, not from the cold, but from a mix of fear, exhaustion, and hope. Every step she took felt heavier than the last. Her small daughter nestled in her arms, Anna's tiny fingers clutching her mother's shawl, and Maria whispered softly to calm her, though she barely calmed herself. Soon, Anna, soon we will have food. Just a little longer. Her words were half a promise, half a prayer. The rancher, Mr. Thompson stood at the doorway, his tall figure casting a long shadow over Maria and Anna. His eyes were sharp, assessing, but not cruel. Maria had expected scorn or coldness, but instead she saw something different. Curiosity, perhaps, or a cautious understanding. Her heart thumped wildly. She swallowed, tried to steady her voice, and began to speak. Her words came in a rush, a mixture of pleading, explanation, and raw honesty. She spoke of the long days without food, the nights spent in fear of Anna's cries, and the desperation that had driven her to this moment.
I don't know what else to do,
Maria said, her voice breaking.
I have nothing left, nothing to offer. Please, my daughter, she is so hungry.
I will do anything, anything to save her. Tears streamed down her face, but she did not wipe them away. She could not hide the pain, the fear, or the love she felt for her daughter. Every ounce of her being was focused on saving Anna, and she hoped that even if the rancher was strict or harsh, he would see her honesty, her courage, and her love. Mr. Thompson did not interrupt. Best he listened silently, his eyes never leaving Maria's face. Anna stirred in her mother's arms, her small voice whispering a question about food. But Maria held her closer and whispered back, "We'll eat soon, my little one. Just wait a little longer." But Maria herself did not fully believe the words. But she had faced rejection so many times that hope felt fragile, almost impossible to grasp. Still, she stood firm, willing to offer herself in exchange for food, if that was what it took. Bah. Finally, Mr. Thompson spoke, his voice calm and steady. "You do not need to offer yourself," he said. Maria froze, unsure if she had heard correctly. She blinked, staring at him in disbelief. I don't understand," she stammered, her throat dry and her heart racing. "But I thought you would want." "I have nothing else." The rancher shook his head slowly. "I know why you came. I understand your desperation, but you will not trade yourself. Bring your daughter to me, and I will give you food. You will not leave this place hungry."
His words were simple, but they carried a weight Maria had not expected. Relief, disbelief, and gratitude collided inside her.
She had prepared for rejection, for cruelty, for the harsh truth that sometimes people take advantage of the weak. Instead, she was met with kindness. Maria's knees felt weak, and she lowered herself slightly, still holding Anna tightly. You would do that?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Bah."
Even though I have nothing to give? Mr. Thompson nodded.
"I have been where you are. I have felt the pain of watching someone you love go hungry." "I cannot turn away when I can help." His words were firm but gentle, and Maria felt tears welling up again, not from fear this time, but from a deep, overwhelming relief. She hugged Anna closer, feeling the warmth of her daughter's small body against her chest. "Come, Anna," she whispered. "We are going to be okay."
Anna's eyes were wide, filled with curiosity and confusion, but she clung to her mother, sensing the change in their fortune. Maria's heart swelled with gratitude, and she felt a flicker of hope she had thought long lost.
As they stepped into the ranch, Maria could hardly believe her eyes. The house was warm and clean, a stark contrast to the small shelter they had called home. The smell of fresh bread and stew filled the air, making Anna's stomach rumble. Maria's heart ached for her daughter, but for the first time in days, she allowed herself to relax, to trust that they would be safe, if only for a little while. Mr. Thompson led them to a small table and set down plates of steaming food. Anna reached out eagerly, her small hands trembling as she took the first bites. Maria watched, her own hunger momentarily forgotten as her daughter ate with a sense of wonder and relief. The sight brought tears to Maria's eyes. She had feared the worst, yet here was kindness, generosity, and compassion in a world that often seemed cold and unforgiving. While Anna ate, Maria sat quietly, gathering her thoughts. She realized how close she had come to despair, how nearly she had allowed fear to paralyze her. The decision to approach the rancher to risk humiliation and rejection had been terrifying, but it had also been necessary. Courage, she understood now, was not the absence of fear. It was the willingness to act despite it. Mr. Thompson watched them with a calm patience. He said little, letting them eat in peace, yet his presence was reassuring. Maria found herself studying him, wondering what had made him different from so many others she had encountered. Perhaps it was experience, empathy, or simply a sense of justice that refused to allow suffering when he could prevent it. Whatever the reason, Maria felt a deep gratitude that she could not fully express. After Anna had eaten her fill, Mr. Thompson provided them with additional food to take home, ensuring that they would not face hunger again that day. Maria accepted it with tears in her eyes, feeling a sense of dignity restored even in the midst of desperation. She had expected to trade her body, to sacrifice herself, and yet she had been met with generosity and understanding. The lesson was clear and profound. Honesty, courage, and love could open doors that fear and desperation alone could not. As the day faded into evening, Maria and Anna prepared to leave.
Anna held tightly to her mother's hand, her eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and gratitude.
Maria smiled, feeling a deep warmth in her chest. She had faced the harsh reality of the world, and she had found a spark of goodness in it. This encounter, she realized, would stay with her forever, shaping the way she approached life, fear, and hope in the future. Maria whispered softly to Anna as they walked back toward their small shelter. "We are safe now, my little one. Today we have food and we have hope. Bear, never forget that there are people in this world who can be kind, even when we least expect it."
Anna's small hand squeezed hers, a silent acknowledgement, and Maria felt a sense of peace she had not known for weeks.
That night, as they rested under the thin blankets in their humble shelter, Maria reflected on the day's events. She realized that the act of seeking help, of facing fear, and of trusting in the possibility of kindness had changed the course of their lives, even if only a little. Anna slept peacefully, her small breathing steady and calm, and Maria sat quietly beside her, thinking about the lesson she had learned. Courage, honesty, and love were powerful forces, strong enough to bridge the gap between despair and hope. Maria understood that life would not always be easy. Challenges would continue, hunger might return, and fear would always lurk nearby. Yet she also knew that they could survive, that they could persevere, because they had faced the worst moments with courage and had been met with unexpected kindness. The memory of Mr. Thompson's generosity would guide her in future struggles, reminding her that humanity could shine brightly even in the darkest times. She held Anna close that night, whispering words of love and promise. "We will face whatever comes next together," she said softly. "No matter how hard it gets, we will survive. And we will never give up hope." Anna stirred slightly, sensing her mother's reassurance, and drifted back into a peaceful sleep. Maria's heart was heavy with responsibility but lightened by hope. For the first time in many days, she believed that survival was not just a dream, but a real possibility. Maria sat at the wooden table, her small daughter Anna beside her, feeling a warmth she had not experienced in weeks. The rancher, Mr. Thompson, had welcomed them into his home, offering food, water, and a safe place to rest. The smell of fresh bread and stew filled the room, and Maria felt a wave of relief wash over her. Anna's small hands reached eagerly for the food, and Maria watched, her eyes filled with tears, as her daughter ate without fear or hesitation. For the first time in what felt like forever, hunger was no longer the only presence in their lives. Hope had arrived. Maria reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The days of searching, the nights of worry, and the moments of despair all seemed to culminate in this one experience. She realized that courage, though frightening, had opened a door that fear alone could never have unlocked. She had faced the unknown, risked humiliation, and exposed her deepest vulnerability. And in return, she had found kindness. The lesson was simple but profound. Honesty and courage paired with love could move even the hardest hearts. As Anna ate, Maria's thoughts wandered to the world outside the ranch. She had lived most of her life on the margins, struggling against harsh conditions, prejudice, and scarcity. Small victories of finding food or warmth had always been fleeting, but today she felt a new sense of security. For the first time, she realized that the world could hold unexpected goodness. Mr. Thompson had treated them not as outsiders or burdens, but as human beings deserving of compassion. Maria understood that this experience would stay with her forever, shaping how she faced challenges in the future.
After the meal, Mr. Jocelyn
Thompson handed Maria a small basket filled with bread, fruits, and dried meat to take home. Maria accepted it with trembling hands, her heart overflowing with gratitude. She wanted to say more, to explain how much this meant to her, but words felt inadequate. Instead, she smiled and nodded, feeling a deep connection to the man who had shown them such generosity. Anna clutched the basket excitedly, her eyes shining, and Maria knew that this simple act of kindness had given them more than food. It had given them hope, courage, and a sense of dignity that they had almost lost. As they prepared to leave the ranch, Maria looked around the warm, bustling home.
Workers moved calmly through the property, tending to the animals and the land, and yet there was a sense of calm and order that made Maria feel at ease.
She realized that Mr. Thompson's kindness was not an act of charity alone, but a reflection of the way he lived his life. With patience, responsibility, and empathy, Maria felt inspired. She understood that compassion was a strength, not a weakness, and that even small acts of care could change lives. The walk back to their shelter was lighter than before. Maria carried Anna in her arms, but her steps felt steadier, her heart lighter. The sun was beginning to set, casting golden light across the plains. Birds chirped softly, and the wind carried a sense of calm that Maria had not noticed in weeks. She breathed deeply, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. The weight of despair, though not completely gone, was eased by the memory of the day's events and the generosity they had received.
As night fell, Maria prepared Anna's bed with the small blankets they had, arranging them carefully to provide as much warmth as possible.
Anna lay down, her eyes wide with curiosity and wonder. "Mama," she whispered, "I'm full and warm. I like today."
But
Maria? "Yes, my little one," she said gently. "Today was a good day. And there will be more good days, I promise." She held Anna close, feeling the steady rise and fall of her daughter's breathing, and realized that hope, once lost, could return even in the darkest times. Maria thought about the lessons of the day. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the strength to act in spite of it. She had faced the unknown, risking embarrassment and rejection, and had been met with kindness. She understood that vulnerability, when paired with honesty, could open doors that pride and fear would keep closed. Most importantly, she recognized that love, her unwavering love for Anna, had guided her through every step of the journey and had given her the strength to persist. As Maria lay beside Anna, she made silent promises for the future. She would never forget the generosity of the rancher, and she would strive to pass on the same compassion to others in need. She knew that life would continue to present challenges, that hunger, fear, and uncertainty would return in some form. But she also knew that she now possessed a new tool: hope. The memory of today, of kindness received and courage shown, would guide her through the difficult days ahead. In the quiet of the night, Maria thought about the world beyond their small shelter bed. She had faced prejudice, poverty, and despair, but she had also encountered empathy, understanding, and generosity. The contrast was striking, and she realized that life was not defined solely by hardship but by how one responded to it. By acting with courage and honesty, by trusting in the possibility of goodness, she had found a path forward. Anna slept peacefully, her small face relaxed and serene. Maria watched her daughter, feeling a deep sense of pride and love. She whispered softly, "Sleep well, my little one. The world can be harsh, but there is kindness too, and we will find it when we need it most." Maria herself felt the calm wash over her. The tension, the fear, and the uncertainty of the past days seemed to ease, replaced by gratitude, hope, and a quiet determination to face whatever came next with courage. The next morning, Maria awoke to the sound of birds chirping and the sun rising over the plains. She prepared breakfast for Anna, using the supplies Mr. Thompson had provided. As they ate together, Maria felt a renewed sense of confidence. She knew that their lives had been touched by generosity, and that this encounter would shape the way she approached challenges in the future. The kindness they had received had not only filled their stomachs, but had also strengthened their hearts, teaching them that even in the harshest circumstances, humanity and compassion could prevail. Maria and Anna spent the day organizing their shelter and caring for themselves, feeling a sense of security they had not known in weeks. Maria thought about the rancher's generosity and realized that acts of kindness were often simple but powerful. A meal, a word of comfort, a helping hand. These things could restore hope, courage, and dignity. She resolved to remember this lesson and to share it with others whenever she could. As the sun set once more, Maria and Anna sat outside their shelter, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink.
Anna leaned against her mother, feeling safe and loved.
Maria's heart swelled with emotion. She knew that life would continue to be challenging, but she also knew that courage, honesty, and love would carry them through. The memory of Mr. Thompson's generosity would remain a guiding light, reminding her that even in the darkest times there could be warmth, hope, and human kindness. Maria whispered to Anna once again, "We will face every day together, my little one. We have hope, we have love, and we will never give up." Anna's small hand squeezed hers in response, a silent agreement. Maria smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. She understood that life was a mixture of hardships and kindness, struggles and triumphs. By facing fear with courage, by acting with honesty, and by embracing love, she had discovered a path forward, one that would guide her and Anna through the days to come. Maria woke to the soft light of dawn, the pale sun spilling across the plains and touching the little shelter she and Anna called home. The previous days had been a whirlwind of fear, courage, and unexpected kindness, but this morning felt different. It felt like a new beginning. She glanced at Anna, who was still asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling gently. Maria's heart swelled with love and gratitude. For the first time in weeks, she felt a quiet sense of peace. They had survived the worst of their hunger, and hope was no longer a fragile dream. It was real and present. As Maria prepared breakfast, she thought about the events that had brought them here. The long journey to the ranch, the fear that gripped her with every step, and the courage it took to approach the rancher. All of it now felt like a path that had led them to this moment. She realized that courage was more than simply acting bravely. It was the willingness to act even when every part of you wanted to turn away. It was the love she had for Anna, stronger than any fear or exhaustion, that had pushed her forward and led them to safety and sustenance. Anna stirred and opened her eyes, looking up at her mother with a sleepy smile. "Mama, are we safe now?" she asked softly. Maria knelt beside her daughter, brushing her hair back and holding her close. "Yes, my little one," she replied gently. "We are safe. Today we have food, warmth, and hope. And we will face every day together." Anna smiled and hugged her mother tightly, feeling the security and love that Maria had fought so hard to provide. After breakfast, Maria decided to take a walk with Anna around their small area. The plains stretched endlessly before them. But now, instead of seeing only hardship, Maria noticed beauty. The early morning light glimmered on the grass. Birds sang in the distance, and a gentle breeze carried the faint scent of wildflowers. The world felt larger and kinder than it had in weeks. Maria realized that life would always hold challenges, but it would also hold moments of grace and generosity. It was these moments, she thought, that made the struggles worthwhile. As they walked, Maria reflected on the lesson the rancher had taught them. Mr. Thompson had shown them that kindness and empathy could make a difference, even in situations that seemed hopeless. He had not demanded anything in return, had not exploited their desperation. Instead, he had responded with humanity, feeding them, comforting them, and restoring their sense of dignity. Maria understood now that acts of compassion were powerful, not just for the receiver, but also for the receiver, but also for the giver, shaping the way people connected and lived in the world. When Maria returned home, she began to share their story with others in her community. She spoke quietly to the women she trusted, recounting the journey, the fear, the courage, and the unexpected generosity of the rancher. "Even when things seem impossible," she would say, "if you act with courage and honesty, if you love those who depend on you, there is a chance that someone will help. There is hope, even when the world seems dark." The other women listened, captivated by her story. They were inspired not only by the kindness they had received, but also by Maria's bravery and perseverance. Anna played nearby as Maria spoke, her laughter and small voice a reminder of why they had endured so much. Maria watched her daughter with pride, realizing that the experience had not only saved their lives, but had also taught them both a deeper understanding of humanity. Anna, though small, had witnessed courage, honesty, and hope in action. Maria knew that these lessons would stay with her daughter forever, shaping the way she saw the world and the way she treated others in need. As the days passed, Maria and Anna settled back into their routine. But something had changed. Life was still hard and challenges remained. But now there was a foundation of hope beneath them. The basket of food from Mr. Thompson had been a temporary gift, but the lesson it carried was permanent. Maria approached each day with renewed strength, determined to face whatever hardships came their way. She felt empowered, knowing that courage and honesty could open doors and that kindness existed even in unexpected places. Maria also began to help others when she could. She shared small portions of food, offered comfort to those in need, and told her story as a reminder that generosity could change lives. Though her resources were limited, she understood that even the smallest act of care could ripple outward, creating hope and connection in a world that often seemed harsh. Her own experience had taught her the power of empathy and the importance of standing up for those who could not stand for themselves. One afternoon, as Maria and Anna rested in the shade of a small tree, she thought about the future. She knew that life would continue to bring challenges, that hunger and struggle could return in different forms. But she also knew that hope, courage, and love had been stronger than her fear. She realized that even in the most difficult circumstances, a person could find help and support if they were willing to act with honesty and bravery. Maria felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that she had learned this lesson and that she would pass it on to Anna and to others in her community. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the plains, Maria held Anna close. "We will face every day together," she whispered softly. "We will never give up hope, and we will always help those we can."
Anna leaned against her mother, feeling safe and loved, her small hand holding Maria's tightly.
The warmth of their bond, strengthened through hardship and survival, filled Maria with a profound sense of purpose. She understood that love, courage, and honesty were the true tools of survival, more powerful than fear, more enduring than hardship. That night, as they lay under their blankets, Maria reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From desperation to hope, from fear to courage, they had experienced a transformation that would remain with them forever. The kindness of a stranger had reminded them that humanity could shine even in dark times, and that hope, when nurtured with courage and love, could sustain life in the most difficult circumstances. Maria whispered once more to Anna, "Remember, my little one, the world can be harsh, but it is also full of kindness. We must be brave, be honest, and love deeply. That is how we survive, and that is how we make the world better for ourselves and for others." Anna's eyes closed in peaceful sleep, her small body calm and content. Maria held her daughter close, feeling the rhythm of her breathing, the warmth of her presence, and the deep bond that had carried them through their trials. As the night settled over the plains, Maria knew that their story was not just one of hunger and survival. It was a story of courage, love, and the unexpected generosity of a stranger who had reminded them that hope always exists, even when it seems impossible. She understood that life would continue to bring challenges, but she was no longer afraid. She had learned that through courage, honesty, and compassion, even the most desperate situations could be met with hope, and even the smallest acts of kindness could change lives forever. Maria closed her eyes, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and determination. She knew that tomorrow, and every day after, she and Anna would continue to face the world together, with love, courage, and hope lighting their path. And in that quiet moment, under the vast starlit sky, Maria understood that the journey they had endured was not just about survival. It was about learning to trust in humanity, to act bravely in the face of fear, and to carry hope in their hearts, no matter what challenges the world might bring.